Supreme Rice. Since the 1930s, supporting Louisiana farmers and communities throughout Louisiana. To find out more, go to supremerice.com. Live at lunch.
You are looking live.
Live at lunch. Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
What the hell's going on out here?
Now, here's Jimmy Ott and Charles Hannegriff.
Yeah, for some reason or another, you sound a little taller on radio.
Is it live? Is it live? Is it live?
From Roca Pizzeria on Government Street at Mid-City. Welcome to the Wednesday edition of Live at Lunch. 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Charles Hannegriff, Jimmy Ott, Max Gotro, and Joint Kinchin's back in the studio. Randy McKay with us today. We'll be looking at the Cincinnati Bengals. We continue our NFL preview. Scott Rabelais, who's been out at practice with LSU, I know because I've seen him there myself, will talk with us in hour number 2.
What is the approximate time? Were you about 10 minutes, 11 minutes?
10 to 12, yeah.
10 to 12.
10 to 12, yeah, something like that. Individual drill. They put the pads on yesterday. But
we won 600 yards offense first game, my man.
Couldn't.
Come on, that's what he got at Ole Miss. He's got more resources here.
You know,
he about 750 then, huh?
Against Florida that year, the first game at Tennessee, that was against Western Kentucky. They scored 63 points. First 4 games at USC, 3 of them against Power 4 conference opponents. They scored 37 a game. And that first year at Tennessee, not only they scored a bunch of points against Western Kentucky. Okay, they had them outmanned, but they scored 45 against Georgia that year in Knoxville in the first month of the season, and they played Florida and Alabama that year, who were both number 1 at the time.
Oh, really?
And lost. Yeah, you're going to remember the Alabama game because it was 12-10. That was the Cody block.
I remember the game was at Gainesville.
Yeah, they lost by 10.
And the punt returner, who was highly recruited, I think fumbled a punt in that game. Narquise or whatever. Yeah, it was a big recruit.
They lost by 10, but so you lost 2 games.
Only by 10.
Yeah, you lost 2 games to number 1 ranked teams by combined 12 points.
Oh, the Terrence Cody game in Tuscaloosa?
Yeah. That was all in the first 6 weeks of the season.
Damn. And he played UCLA too, huh?
Yeah, later on.
No, that was early. It
was they won that game? Okay. I'm thinking about I did a column on this coming off of TigerBait.com either today or tomorrow, and it's about the quick turnaround for Kiffin. And thank you for giving me the story idea when you came up with that Matt Corral stat.
All right, Charlie. That's what I'm here for.
I appreciate it.
I watched a few games.
I wanted to go and see what the immediate impact was of Kiffin, because he's talked about how they have simplified the system and how they have made it easy to learn. And so I said, okay, well, let's go back a little bit. So at Tennessee, the head coaching job, I didn't fool with the Raiders. At Tennessee, they scored 63 points in the opener against Western Kentucky. And then in the first 6 weeks of the season, they score 45 against Georgia. And then they take the 2 number 1 teams, give them a real battle. Now, that Tennessee team finished 1 game over 500. So they took their lumps too. But it was offensively, it was pretty good.
No, it's very good. Instantly, man.
And
who was his quarterback at Tennessee?
Was that? Gosh, that was after the Clausens. That's going to require some thought. I didn't even.
What year was it?
09. I didn't even. I didn't even think about the quarterback, but the overall results were good. At USC, they came out of the gate. They blew out Hawaii, but then they played 3 non-conference games or 2 non-conference games against power conference opponents, and then they played Washington State. They averaged 37 a game for those first 4, which was pretty good. Now, that team finished 8-5. The schedule thickened up later in the season, but it's also worth noting that USC team was on probation in 2010, so they were dealing with some restrictions. At Florida Atlantic, in year 1, they increased their point total by 14 a game and 100 yards a game. Now, they lost their first 2 games because they played Navy. Navy ran the ball right at them. And then they lost to, I think it was Wisconsin. But after that, they went 11-1. So, you lose your first 2, you're a little bit outmanned against those two, and then you won 11 games. And then Ole Miss, Matt Corral, 395 in the first game.
600 yards.
Ole Miss went from 26 points a game in 2019 to 39 points a game in 2020, COVID year. You could take that two ways. Less time to prepare, but, everybody else had their problems too. But they went from 26th in the country in total offense to 3rd. 1 year. And then I think everybody knows what Trinidad Chambliss did last year. But try this on. He played 15 games for Ferris State in 2024, and 15 games for Ole Miss last year, started 13 of them. He threw for more completions, more yards, better completion percentage, better quarterback rating in 15 games at Ole Miss than he did at Ferris State. So this is 15 games against, Ole Miss competition, mostly the Southeastern Conference, and Ferris State plays in something called the Great Lakes Intercollegiate Athletic League. I think the SEC competition is a little higher, and his numbers were better. So if you're wondering what the time frame is on
his numbers are better at Ole Miss than Ferris State. That's impressive.
Yards, completions, quarterback rating. He did throw for a couple more touchdowns at Ferris State, but not a lot. I think it was 3.
It's a lot, Charlie. You kind of look. The bottom line is yes. Until very late into his last 2 years, where he learned, they were all offense and just not a whole lot of attention to complementary football, and made it very tough on their defense as well. But it was all about the offense. That was his side of the ball, and they finished 7-6 that year. His quarterback at Tennessee was Jonathan Crompton. They lost the second game to UCLA at home, 19-15. That was the UCLA team. That was when Norm Chow jumped ship and went over to UCLA.
Yeah.
But it was in Tennessee, and Neuheisel and the Bruins beat them. The very next week, they lost to Florida, and they started out. They won 4 of their last 5 before they lost to Virginia Tech. He was gone. They lost to Virginia Tech in the bowl game, but 7-5 and finished 4-1. Tennessee's schedule traditionally does lighten up. The only loss of the 5 games, and they beat South Carolina, Memphis, Vandy, and Kentucky. Their only loss was in Oxford.
Oh, okay. Because for years they finished up with Kentucky and Vandy at the end of their schedule.
That's forever.
And they were terrible.
Forever, and they throw in a win. They played Memphis a little bit late that particular year as well. So they lost to Auburn at home, 26-22. I do remember that game. They beat Georgia 45-19, and then remember the Terrence Cody game. I forget what game LSU was having that day, October 24th, creeping toward my birthday there, and the weather's great in late October, and so I remember watching that. And Frank told me a lot. He said he thought Kiffin was really good in sort of his motivational speech that day, and he said, "Who in this room is kissing that damn ring? We ain't kissing that ring," which Kiffin would say, but that that little son of a guy, it's the whole bit. They should have won. They should have won.
Yeah.
They should have won.
Cody was unblockable at times that year. He was about 360 pounds, but he could actually move.
It's a classic case of a player having such an impact on the field with very little statistics.
Yes, yeah. He was immovable. I mean, he was 360 pounds. I mean,
how did he get academically eligible for that JC at Alabama, huh?
I don't know, but they ran him out of the NFL because he got caught what I believe was in an animal abuse scandal.
There you go.
So his NFL career got cut short. But that year, he was as impactful a defensive player as it was in college football.
But the next project we're going to put you on is how many snaps per game, over the course of the Ole Miss 7 seasons, but also before, because he was running hyperspeed at Florida Atlantic. Tennessee, I'm trying to remember as much about I can't really remember their tempo being such a big deal. Heupel actually was hyperspeed there before he realized. And these guys, we talked about it, Kiffin, Heupel, Malzahn, these guys that want to come in here and just run 100 snaps a game. Like, man, you can't survive over a course of a game, in a course of a season, whether you're wearing your defensive front down or flat out just get them all injured, across the season. So, anyway, so interesting.
When he talks about the evolution of this, the Florida Atlantic part was kind of what he talked about is kind of like a turning point as far as simplifying the terminology,
because
making it
the
easier
roster
to learn.
turnover was so
yes,
much.
Yeah,
makes sense.
And
good for
that's really serving him well now that there's so much more turnover than there was back then.
I was watching a little bit of Houston and Arizona State last night as well with Leavitt. Leavitt was actually benched late in that game. They were down 15, and they pulled him very late. Houston won it at Tempe, but Tyson was out for that game.
Yeah.
It was in street clothes in that game, and I don't remember him. He throws a lot of. You may have seen this at practice. I'm curious. His mechanics are as sidearm as they were.
A little bit,
Yeah,
a little bit. Yeah,
he throws from the shoulder a little bit.
Yes, he does. And we're watching him throw, against no defense, so completing most of them.
I tell you what, though, just refreshing my memory too. I mean, he throws a nice ball.
Yeah, there's not a problem with him making throws.
He's gonna. Who's going to have better numbers, him or Chambliss?
Whew.
I'm curious. LSU's got a tougher schedule.
They do,
but Ole Miss is not terribly. I mean, it's not completely. But Kiffin and Weiss, their system. I mean, what quarterback in their system hasn't put up numbers?
All of them have.
Yes,
It's the line I had was your offensive excellence is eventual, but the improvement is immediate.
Now. What's the name? Crompton threw for 226 that year.
Okay.
He wasn't, and that's before he went to Florida Atlantic. That's, he was new with his system. Crompton is not a pro quarterback, obviously. I mean, average is fair with him, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe at best. And they only, Charlie, this might be as low. They only average 383 yards a game.
How much?
383 total offense. That's got to be a low for him. Got to be.
Yeah.
I mean, Kiffin offense doesn't average 400 yards a game. Come on.
Well, I'm going to tell you they averaged nearly, 4,700 yards of passing last year for Ole Miss. So 313 a game. Yeah. That's 15 games.
He had a hell of a year, man.
He did. That's counting the first two games. Chambliss himself threw for just under 4,000, throwing another 750 for.
How many games?
He played all 15. He started 13.
So start 13.
Yeah.
13. So that's over 300.
And Simmons had 750 in the two games he started before he left against the watered down competition. So they threw for 4,700 yards last year. Now that's 15 games. So 313 yards a game times 12 games, 3,700 yards. Can you average? Is Leavitt going to average 313 yards passing a game?
Going to average how much a game?
313.
Probably not.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
I think they like to run. I think they like to run the ball better than that.
Yes,
I think they prefer he doesn't have to throw.
So
for 313
in their
a game.
rushing that year, they were 157, which is solid.
Yeah,
solid.
And put you middle of the league, maybe
So
middle
226 and 157 a game. But no, they expected. And the attempts you're looking at, they rushed it 6 times more per game than threw it. What did they do last year?
That means last year, 523 attempts, 576, 53 more rushing attempts in 15 games. So about 3 and a half. Yeah, something like that for Ole Miss.
Well, he is going to be balanced.
He's going to
gonna
try
be
very
balanced.
hard to be balanced. And you can look at that. If you told we get to know right now, there's only 2 rental wins on this schedule, okay? So most of this is against prime competition. So let's, look at their rushing statistics at the end of the season. They haven't been able to run the ball, in a while here. If they have 4 more rushing attempts per game than passing attempts, it'll probably be a pretty good
And
game.
in a conversation with Jimbo, and I remember that because of Saban. Now, Saban would pull the plug on an offense sometimes. He would, and it got him. It grabbed him and cost him a trip to Atlanta up in Fayetteville or Little Rock, late where they sat on that.
Oh, the miracle on Markham,
Yeah. I mean, it's just percentages. Are you going to win? And it was another one that came close in Tiger Stadium. Might have been a Florida game. But anyway, Fisher and my conversation with Rich Rodriguez, they said, no, he's not handcuffing him at all. But he better be balanced at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, and I'm being repetitive, but just to make the point, they could not run the ball the first half of his first season here, but they insisted that they were going to continue. And at the end of the season, Tofield was getting those tough yards in the red zone.
Yeah, he was.
The
Years later, Saban had a comment about that miracle on Markham game about why he did what he did.
Oh, okay.
And this is for him, a break or carry. He says, well, the Arkansas quarterback couldn't hit a bull in the ass with a handful of sand. I figured we were good, and that's why they call it the miracle on Markham.
One of our best DBs took a chance and got out of his deep zone responsibility and thought he was getting an easy pick late, and it cost LSU. So, but yes, out of nowhere.
It was Matt Jones, right?
I think so.
I think it was Matt Jones.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. What year was that?
Who was 02?
2002.
02,
yeah, because the year we're going back to the conference championship game.
Right, and Jones ended up being a wide receiver when he went to the NFL.
He was capable. That it's a 2003 game, or was it 2001? 2001. Well, he was outstanding.
Yeah,
he was fun. That was a shootout, man.
And he could run too. He was such a threat to run, even though he was so big. He had those long strides.
He's more of a threat to run.
He was scary when he got out in the open field.
Charlie, we talk about Roca over here, and what kind of place is it? I mean, if I'm turning 21, I'm going to come to Roca for my 21st birthday.
Happy birthday, EJ.
Yes. He thinks he's a man. Well, until he pays his own bills, no, son. Pause. But anyway, happy birthday. Very
Adult
proud
in training.
Of you. And so he's on his way back to school. But with some of his buddies last night, came right over here to Roca. And, sometimes the summer can be slow. It has not stopped over here at Roca. And Ozzie, Miguel, and all the staff over here does such a wonderful job. It starts with the food. But their service is on point. It really is. I love coming over here when I'm on this side of the town, especially for their happy hour, which you can, like 3 different pizzas for half price, and all the specialty cocktails and wines and draft beer are half price Tuesday through Friday, 2 to 6 p.m. But they are busy. I would highly recommend calling for reservations if you're coming over here for dinner, because it can be a wait on any day, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays included over here at Roca. We are open for on Sundays at all of the Go Eat concepts like Izzo's, Lit, Roca, and Modesto, and the latest addition to the Go Eat concepts family, going to be hosting the Lane Kiffin Show. So that's right, over at Court to Table on Burbank. So the pickleball multifunctional restaurant, and boy, when the weather's right, what a great place to kind of have that open air viewing with the big screen TVs over at Court to Table. So yes, indeed, Charlie. When you were turned 21 or 18 at the time, we were legal age.
Yeah, it was.
Well, don't you wish you could have gone to Roca?
Absolutely. Especially considering where I went that.
On your daddy's dime?
Yeah, a little bit. Live at Roca, live at lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny from Roca Pizzeria on Government Street on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Remember, you can always get the show on demand, 1045ESPN.com, LouisianaSports.net. It's presented by Supreme Rice, celebrating 90 years in business in 2026. Support our Louisiana farmers. Go to supremerice.com. Jimmy, I made a huge mistake last year. I had an opportunity to buy the Lakers, and I thought $10 billion was a little bit too much. But if I'd have known that I could flip them for $12.5 billion less than a year later, I probably would have done the deal. You know, every now and then you walk the business, you walk a deal, and you regret it. I regret not buying the Lakers last year at this time.
Well, Charlie, if you'd understood that, you know, as soon as you launch LeBron, I mean, that's going to spike the value of the commodity, and there you go. So, I mean, you know, they get rid of him, and bam, you know, it's spikes up a couple of billion, and you know, you make your mark and you move on.
As much as I'd like to blame,
you're a billionaire in my eye, Charlie.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yes.
I wish I was a billionaire in the eyes of the bank. As much as I'd like to blame this on LeBron, or at least link it to him, what appears to be the real fulcrum here is that Mr. Walter hasn't been paying his taxes, or at least according to the U.S. prosecutor.
The guy selling the Lakers?
Yes.
Oh well, they'll certainly be paying attention to this transaction.
So he made his fortune in insurance, and a couple of his insurance companies. Well, the U.S. prosecutors are taking a long look into that. Now realize he owns the Lakers, he owns the Dodgers, he owns Chelsea in the Premier League. I mean, this is not a guy without assets, right? Yeah. So and he owns a number of auto racing teams too. So he got money, okay? There's no doubt. But when you look at it, it's like, hang on a second. You're going to flip a franchise in less than a year for $2.5 billion. And I understand this is not a cash transaction, okay? That it's pretty intense when you got to sell a franchise. There's a lot of hoops you got to jump through. Well, my boy's turning a 25% profit just on paper, at least. Justice Department, I'm sure, will be delighted with that. Maybe he can pay his taxes
Which
now.
is IRS penalties. So.
Well, I don't know.
They're probing $16 billion in undisclosed loans.
$16 billion.
I don't know how much of that, you know, he may owe, but they're probing it. They're looking into that.
Well,
that started last month.
If he gets his $12.5 billion for the Lakers, then I guess he can pay a good bit of the $16 billion. Does he owe $16 billion, or that's what's in?
They're just looking into that amount. I don't know how much he might owe. I will say it's a little interesting. This probably won't interest a whole lot of people, but Josh Kushner is one of the people buying this. Brother of Jared Kushner, this president's son-in-law. But what's interesting is Josh Kushner, just a couple weeks ago, was involved in this FIFA takeover that's created a lot of controversy. It has been abandoned now, but it was a plan for FIFA to sell a stake in their company and some of their media rights to private equity, which got universally condemned by all of soccer, and the plan has been abandoned. But Josh Kushner was involved in that, so I wonder if that money, that deal being broken down, actually paved the way for this opening for him and Bob Iger.
I'm not sure. I do know he owns part of the Heat, which he's going to have to sell to get in on this Lakers deal. It comes on the same day as the Sportico gives out their annual NFL franchise values, and the Cowboys come in at number one again. They've been number one, I think, every year that Jerry Jones has owned the team, which goes back into the late 80s. 15.5. Does
that include the stadium?
It must. For it to be $3 billion.
Before that stadium, they were number one in value.
They were. And
but that's a big deal.
Stan Kroenke, the Rams are number two at $12.7 billion. Kroenke owns SoFi, doesn't he? Doesn't he own the stadium, or at least
he does own
controlling
the
interest in the stadium? So the number two team owner owns the stadium as well. The Cowboys at $15.5 billion. The Rams at $12.7 billion. Jimmy, you seen this list?
No.
You got any idea? The Saints' value surprised me.
Wait. So
out of 32 teams, where do you think they rank?
18.
I would have had them somewhere around there too, maybe in the low 20s. They're 31st, which surprised me that they were that low.
Well, only that doesn't take into all of the other Benson acquisitions, huh?
No, this is just the Saints. Just under $7.6 billion, and they're ahead of only the Cincinnati Bengals.
Television stations.
None of that. Just the Saints.
Okay, an NBA franchise.
Yeah, I thought if the Saints were up for sale, they'd probably go the price tag would probably be
Well, the
about
market's
$8
that
billion.
weak, man.
$8
It just
billion.
is. You know, that it's a population decline. There's restaurants closing. I mean, it's still, there's once a time where they're second behind Las Vegas in tourism industry, but I mean, it still does well, but not as well, but it's a weak financial market.
The Seahawks sold, the most recent one to sell was $9 billion. Now they just won the Super Bowl, which helps, of course. They were in at number 12, but I don't know that I expected. For instance, the Carolina Panthers are about $500 million more than the Saints, and I wouldn't think that they would be that much more valuable than the Saints. The bigger markets I get.
Charlotte's way more financially stable than New Orleans.
Buffalo?
No.
Jacksonville?
Well, a little bit better, but I mean, not much. But where are the Bills?
25th, about a little over $500 million.
Jacksonville for sure. It's Florida.
Jacksonville about $300 million more than this. Cleveland, Max's favorite team.
Absolutely.
$8.6 billion to $7.6 billion. The Browns are $1 billion more than the Saints.
You don't think so? Look at the population. Look at the financial base.
Cleveland is not the biggest.
Bigger than New Orleans?
They're bigger than New Orleans, but they're not even the biggest city in Ohio.
What's the ranking of the two markets? Is population?
New Orleans is probably, again, when we talk about populations, we're talking about metro area. Cleveland, I think, is the third biggest city in Ohio. Columbus, I know, is bigger.
The Columbus metro area has surpassed Cincinnati and Cleveland, yes.
And Cincinnati, I think, is bigger population-wise than Cleveland, too, and they're last. So
New Orleans is smaller.
I get it.
Okay, well, that's –
well,
you don't think the financials are more stable in Cleveland as well?
The Haslam family has significantly more money than Ms. Benson. Yes, they do.
Okay, but not just that, but just the average median income.
It's higher.
It's got to be higher.
I wouldn't
They
know how much.
count Cleveland's metro area as the largest in Ohio. They include Akron and Canton. It's 3.7 million. Columbus.
Canton's 45 miles
Where's
down the road.
that rank? Where does it rank compared to New Orleans?
I'll have to look at that. This is at the Ohio. It's about 1 million bigger than both Cincinnati and Columbus's metro areas.
Canton and Akron are a pretty good way. That's almost like counting Baton Rouge in the population in New Orleans. I mean, Akron is not a suburb. Canton is not a suburb. Canton is a good. I've made that drive. It's a good 50 miles down the road. So it's how you count it. But I was just surprised that they were that much.
New Orleans is shrinking.
New Orleans shrunk a lot after Katrina. I get it. I mean, it was one of the smallest markets in the league before that, and even 20 years after the storm. I mean, I don't think they're completely back to where they were.
44 minutes to drive from Akron to Cleveland.
Yeah, it's a little bit closer than Baton Rouge to New Orleans, but not a lot. Anyway, $7.59 billion. If Todd Graves is listening.
I mean, New Orleans is the smallest market in the NBA.
Yeah. And
so, where's Green Bay on that list? Even being in Green Bay, which is the smallest in the NFL.
22. 8.59 billion.
Don't forget our friends at Legacy Title. Chad Reynolds, Legacy Title for all of you real estate closings. 296-0060. Full-service title company servicing all of South Louisiana. Fast, friendly, professional services, what you get when you dial 296-0060. Ashley Donald, Adrian Galata, Michael Platt, Mariana Haynes, Natalie and Bradford Smith. Buying, building, refinancing. Nobody chooses but you. Choose Chad Reynolds at Legacy Title. 296-0060.
Cleveland 35th, New Orleans 59th.
Okay, so that's a lot. That's a lot bigger. Live at Roca, live at lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny from Roca Pizzeria on Government Street on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Uh-oh, they let the big dog out.
Boom! Out of nowhere.
It's time for the big dog, Randy McKay, with his best picks.
Big dog, how you doing, my man?
I'm doing pretty well here. We're getting a little closer. Got some big preseason schedule this week, and we're getting ready to go here.
All right, let's get right to it, man. Let's talk about Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals, and they are, of course, in the AFC North, and a new coach for the Pittsburgh Steelers, new coach for the Cleveland Browns, and new coach for the Baltimore Ravens. How about that? I would have never bet that every team would change their coach before Cincinnati did.
Well, the Browns changed about 8 times compared to the Ravens and Steelers.
But, I mean,
combined.
I've never been a big
No.
I'm drawing a blank. The Bengals head coach,
Zach
Taylor, but we digress. So he has outlasted his colleagues as far as that's concerned. Their win total is 10.5. Their price to win the division is plus 184. Minus $2 to make it to the playoffs. Their schedule, of course, the 6 games against in division, but out of the division they play the AFC South, which is generally a weaker, and NFC South weaker as well. So let's start with that. Where do you rank those 2 divisions, the AFC and NFC South, 1 to 8?
Yeah, right at the 8 and 7 there for them too.
Okay.
I'm not real high on either one of those. Of course, one of them could produce maybe a Super Bowl team, maybe the Houston Texans, but we can talk about them some other time. But that would be one I'd maybe look at. But as far as the divisions are, I mean, this Cincinnati Bengal team, total desperation here, in my opinion. Here, 3 years not making the playoffs. You know, they went and made the big trade, got Lawrence in here, so everything seems desperation. But saying that, I don't really see a whole lot of bet preseason I can make right now. It's kind of a wait-and-see thing. You know, their offensive line, same offensive line, shaky, number 28 in my ratings. They got Orlando Brown at left tackle. That's not a good left tackle. That could be another injury and waiting for Joe Burrow, so they might have to go to Joe Flacco. So you never know with this team, and that's kind of what you get. The front 7 should improve, but I still got them even number 26 with the Dexter Lawrence trade. So as far as it goes for me, I see them second in the division behind the Ravens, but not sure about the playoffs here, just kind of by default, and then have Pittsburgh and Cleveland below them.
Randy, I know you do a lot of situational handicapping with the schedule before the season even starts, but this is about game 1. For Zach Taylor has been the biggest problem for him. In 7 seasons, they've lost 5 of the 7 games, and the 2 that they've won, last year they finally broke the streak. They eked by the Browns by a point, and then they won an overtime game against the Vikings, which I believe was in their Super Bowl year. So they have been slow out of the gate, even when they managed to win that opener. With that in mind, any thoughts about them opening the season against Tampa Bay?
Yeah, I could see, depending on where this line goes, it's kind of wait and see. But, we're seeing that kind of desperation by them in the preseason here. They're going to play their starters in this first game, and the line in the Detroit game with them has gone from 3.5 probably up to like 7 now. And that has somewhat to do with Detroit, too, because, Bridgewater retired, and Cincinnati does have one of the best quarterback rooms for preseason. If you look at Burrow won't play much, but then you got Flacco and Josh Johnson. That's a pretty good crew right there. So, we're seeing that kind of desperation. That's what he did last year. He won the first 2 games last year, but unfortunately the big injury came, and that derailed their whole season last year. And, and the Browning wasn't the answer, so they had to bring in Flacco, and that's kind of how it went.
I hear a lot of people talking about, well, they picked up Dexter Lawrence, they're going to be better. Well, they gave up the number 10 pick in the first round, and they gave up, and they let Trey Hendrickson walk. By comparison, Hendrickson with the Ravens in division, by the way, $28 million a year. Lawrence are paying $23 million a year if you combine everything with the signing bonus and everything else. But what about that trade-off? Because, geez, I mean, Hendrickson was really, really productive for the Bengals.
Yeah, they're going for a better interior guy because their run defense was always kind of shaky. So they're going for a guy that'll give them more of a trench guy in the middle. And they added, a couple other free agencies to the defense there. They have Allen in the front and the guy from Seattle on the edge. So that should help them in the front 4. And then they added a couple guys in the back. And, Al Golden's getting used to running that defense. He took over for one of our favorites, Lou Anarumo.
I know.
That guy, he's still with the Indianapolis Colts, so we can talk more about that when we bring up the Colts, but they don't have Lou anymore, so they're transitioning here to Golden, and hopefully, this team is favored in 15 out of 17 games, small, but they still are, so they get a real favorable schedule, and this could be, but it's a wait and see as far as my opinion. I wouldn't take the over 9.5 yet without seeing them a couple times.
The guy that they drafted to take Hendrickson's place in the middle of the first round last year, Shamar Stewart from A&M, had a terrible rookie season. Was just almost non-existent. He had one sack. Right. He only had 5 tackles and 1 sack the whole year. They went back to A&M with their first pick. It was the second round, but their first pick this year, Cassius Howell, who we saw in Tiger Stadium. Okay, he wreaked havoc. Now LSU's offensive line had problems. They're looking. Those are the two guys they're looking for to produce some pass rush on the outside, and I think that's why they put their money, their free agent money in the trade on the inside. They're counting on these two guys.
Well, they also let one of the few, probably their best defensive player walk too.
Yeah, no, they did.
And I'd scapegoat Nanarumo was misguided in my opinion, Randy.
Yeah, definitely. He's one of the best at that second half adjustments. That's what he's kind of known for. So, he's instrumental in them getting the Super Bowl that year. Pretty much shutting down Kansas City in that playoff game.
I mean, what it's just, and their money is spent on the skill guys. They have no offensive line, and it just. And Burrow's numbers, I mean, his average, the last 5 years, I think he's first in TDs per game and first or second in yards and first or second, pretty much every category. But, I mean, they lose so many shootouts. They did start off 2-0 as opposed to, previous season, pretty much every season, with Burrow where they dig themselves a hole. But they quickly lost 4 in a row, none of them close. 3 by 13 or more, 38, 25, and 13. The last one, the multi-score loss as well at Lambeau by 9. So they beat Pittsburgh by 2, and then they lose the next 4. They started 3-8 last year. Correct me if I'm wrong, Charlie. How many starts did Burrow make last year? Did he make every?
No, he didn't make them all.
What about how many?
I'm trying to remember what game he went out in. It was right around the beginning of October, if I remember right.
Was it that Jets game?
8 games last year.
8 games. Jeez.
Yeah, he went out after
first 8, Max.
No, he went out after week 2 and didn't come back until Thanksgiving.
Okay. So that's when they started. That's when they lost 8 out of 9. When in the third game. You know.
And God bless if they lose that game to the Buccaneers, 4 of the next 5 are on the road. So the potential for a slow start is there again schedule-wise. Now, they're not playing the top of the league. They get the Dolphins and the Texans and the Steelers at that point and Jaguars, but 4 out of 5 on the road after the opener.
Randy, what do you think about this preseason approach? They did this last year where they played Burrow a lot more than most established quarterbacks.
Yeah, and I think they're going to stay with it. They had their success there, and, I think we had a big bet there in Week 3 when they played Minnesota at home. That was a nice victory for us.
Yeah.
Looking back at it, you guys brought that up, so I looked at that as well. But, and Charlie made a good point there. But at least, if they do get off their shaky start, they got that bye working for them, which Week 6, that could be a spot maybe where you look at this team after the bye, whether they're going to be a good team or a bad team. You can bet this. There's season totals throughout the season right there, and you can decide what you want to do with this team for futures going forward after that bye week.
Carson Wentz quarterbacked the Vikings that game when they had a smooth 34-3 lead at half over the Bengals. That'll do it. It went to 48-3 before the Bengals got a no-by-the-way touchdown late, a garbage time touchdown. So, Randy, are you suggesting under a 10.5 wins? I tell you what, the no playoffs coming back at a decent price.
Yeah, as of right now, I would look at that more so than any overs with this team. I mean, like I say, it's kind of wait and see for me. They got that easy schedule, so that that might dictate them to even come out strong. So, but I'm a wait and see, and it's a desperate spot, and we're still looking at if this offensive line can hold up. I'm just not a fan of teams that have a really poor offensive line like this one.
Did you make it to Bet Bash last week?
I did not make it this year. I had
Okay.
some things going on back here in North Dakota, so I pretty much hung tight and did a lot more studying. Actually looked at a lot of college too. So I got pro and college in front of me.
Yeah, real quick. And speaking of the Bison, they participate in Week 0. They play again their debut as in
Jacksonville State.
Jacksonville State. Okay, and what's your thoughts on how they will transition?
Well, they lost their quarterback, and of course, you guys know the Saints got Bryce Lance, their best receiver. So maybe not the best year for them to transition, but the Mountain West that they're in now with these teams aren't the strongest. I still see them having probably the best offensive and defensive lines of any of the Mountain West teams. So I see right around 8-9 wins for them, and it should be an exciting year. I was looking through a lot of FCS too, and there's a lot of good spots there. I think when they play the big colleges coming up as well.
Well, we will be in Las Vegas for Week 0. Max likes to bet the board on that Saturday. So
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Who was betting Nicholls State against? Who were they playing?
Hey, money line winner, my man.
It was.
Money line winner. So anyway,
Money cash just like Ohio State.
We'll be leaning on you for some of those FCS picks as well. Big Dog, we appreciate it. We'll continue our NFL previews. We'll pick a team for next week as well. Good luck, and follow Randy on Twitter at RR39. Thank you, buddy.
All right, thanks, guys. Good luck, everybody out there.
Don't forget our friends at Go Chevrolet in LaPlace, Go Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Plaquemine, Go Chevrolet West in Plaquemine, and Go Ford in Waveland. It's the Go Automobile dealership family in South Louisiana and Mississippi. A great selection of vehicles at a price you could afford. Full selection of new, reliable, pre-owned vehicles as well. So the finance team is outstanding, very professional finance team, competitive financing or leasing plans available. And then our concierge service department is super convenient, from oil changes to filter replacement to major powertrain, drivetrain repairs, you name it. Mention my name, Jimmy Ott, for VIP pricing at Go Chevrolet, Go Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, Go Chevrolet West, and Go Ford.
Live at Roca, live at lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
With Ott and Hanny from Roca Pizzeria on Government Street on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Last night, Paul Skenes on the mound.
He's better.
Well, the line didn't look all that bad for the 5 innings, but
You have 2 bombs?
he gave up 1 earned run in 5 innings.
Oh, no, that's right. They took him out 65 pitches, huh?
65 pitches caught everybody's attention, and the number that really caught my attention, career low on the fastball at 95.7. That's the lowest average that he has had in any start since he's made the big leagues. He didn't throw a single pitch harder than 97, and he only had 4 swings and misses, which is also a career low for him. The velocity dip can no longer be ignored or denied. It's there, and he's also had some location problems. Now, he didn't have the walks last night, the 2 starts before that, but they lifted him after 65 pitches, and when they asked him afterward, he said it was not injury related. And Skenes says, if I was a manager, I'd probably do it too. So I don't know.
Give him a start or 2 off.
That's what I would do.
I mean, I'm not a doctor, but I mean, come on, man. I mean, just this is overdue to try.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not winning the games. He's hurting them.
No, they've
No,
lost.
He didn't hurt them last night. You giving up 1 run. They just
pitched
didn't score anything.
Yeah, he
oh,
pitched
no,
okay.
You give up 1 run, Charlie. You'll take that any time with any starter over 5 innings. I mean, it's better than Scooble. Did against the Royals. He gave up 3 in 5 innings.
Well, let me ask you this. At 65 pitches in 5 innings, doesn't he stay in 99%
They've seen the
of the time?
measurables. They've seen enough of the measurables. We got to do something. They probably have been having discussions, deliberations and stuff. Now, I will be surprised if they flat out just don't give him a start or 2 off to try and just rest, go and throw a bullpen, see if his velo goes up.
And they have been so careful with him. They have been so, even at times when we thought they were being overcautious at times in his career.
I think this one has been a little bit of a stutter step back on that caution.
I agree because we've been saying this for 3 weeks or more that it's time for
Charlie, dude, it's been like 6 starts ago where this team lost 9 in a row.
Right. He something ain't right. So give him a
1.8% playoff probability for the Pirates too. I mean,
yeah,
why isn't he sitting down already?
They've been one of the top 3 scorers, but they have hit O'Neal Cruz not being in that lineup. He's on the IL right now, has affected them as well. And they finally came back to earth. The overall numbers with the lineup have been awesome, though.
Time to give him a week off. We'll take a break, come back with Scott Rabelais at Roca, live at lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Enjoying the finer things in life is his forte. Let's bring in Scott Rabelais from The Advocate.
And return here at Roca Pizzeria on Government Street, Mid-City.
Yes, indeed. Over here, some of our specials at Roca include the bruschetta, sauce sorrentina, Italian sausage, whipped lemon goat cheese, black olives, capers, grana padano, garlic confit and cheese, the Meyer lemon goat cheese, confit garlic, romesco, focaccia, gremolata, and the Italian beef, the braised short rib pickled shallots, Havarti cheese, shishito peppers, Charlie, watch when you pronounce that, sesame pistolette, and a house au jus, and our pizza shishito, mozzarella, shishito pepper, salami picante, grana, oregano, vinaigrette, shishito cream. If I have to say that one more time.
That's the reason I put you on this assignment.
The chicken Bellagio. Charlie, we both like the Bellagio. Breaded cutlet, burrata, pesto, linguine, arugula, sun-dried tomato, prosciutto. And our Negrete Barola wine tasting in the Ray Room. That's Wednesday, August 26th, 6 to 8:30 p.m. It's $50 per person. You get a ton of bang for your buck. So extensive of the bruschetta board with the wine tastings to complement it. The whole Epicurean experience over here at Roca Pizzeria on Government Street in the heart of Mid-City. We have great pizza, the Neapolitan-style pizza, but it's way more than just pizza here at Roca.
Rab, good afternoon. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you guys? You're making me hungry.
That's the idea. That's the idea. All right, so getting into the heart of camp now. They've been there a week. They put the pads on yesterday. This is what I call the real meat and potatoes of camp. Some observations that you've had from the first week and what you're looking for going forward.
Sam Levitt walks, talks, runs, throws. He's out there doing stuff and looks to be comfortable doing everything, and we finally got to talk to him this week, so that was cool. Deuce Gerald, as a lot of people said, he looks small compared to some of those guys out there, but he is quick, quick off the edge. I was watching him do like a little drill yesterday where they're under like this kind of like little awning thing that's just above where you can take a 3-point stance, and then they fire off the ball when this guy moves the ball, and I don't know, it's just one little thing, but he's quick, and the Dylan Jones seems to be the top running back at this point for LSU. He keeps he's usually the first one in line. Like as has been well documented, we haven't seen a whole lot. We get to be out there about 11 minutes a day, but he seems to be the first guy in line when they're doing the drills that we get to see. So we'll see if that continues. Obviously, still a long way to go, but those are some of the impressions, and more of a thought than just what I'm seeing. Yeah, obviously you have some good freshmen at defensive tackle like Gerald and like Anderson, but boy, that could be a problem spot for LSU this season. I mean, depending on such inexperienced players to help you stop the run up the middle.
I think that the freshmen are going to play a lot, and it's not even going to shock me if they go out there and start in the opener. But the addition of Blockton and Green, the two transfers from Auburn and Clemson, that gives you at least what I would call some reassurance that there are some experienced bodies back there. The one guy, the wild card, is Don McKinley, who honestly we haven't seen. Again, we don't see a whole lot, but have not seen up there with the first group, and he played a lot last year. Was hoping that this would kind of be of a breakout season for him. I'm less confident in that right now, although there's still plenty of time. The offensive line, there has not been any fluctuation in that starting group from the spring to now through the first week. They put the pads on, but that looks pretty set. I would say moving forward, and most of the defense, I think, is set. They've tried some different guys at safety on the other side of Benefield, but I think that's probably Cooley's spot. They're just getting some other guys some work. I'm still waiting for the wide receivers to shake out with that big group that they've got there. I've got a couple of guys up nearer the top in Jace Brown and Jackson Harris maybe, but I'm not sold on anybody, or I think they're all good, but I don't think anybody's really separated themselves. I don't know how you feel about that.
No, I think you're hearing all the right things from Kiffin and from Levitt. That they're working well together. Things are going well. Good accuracy from the quarterback, and hitting the receivers on target, and they're running around. But it's not a group that it's like they have a lot of. I always go back to what you guys say. Good with a chance to be great. There's a lot of good players there. But not no one who just makes you go, "Ooh, there's the next." There goes the next. Even Terrace Marshall. Even I watched the championship game the other night against Clemson, and it was on, and it's like, man, that guy would have been a number one receiver for a lot of schools. Is there any somebody like that? I don't know. They probably will emerge. I mean, there's still more time, but nobody just goes like wowing you. And again, the little time we get to see. I also want to mention one moment. We asked about Damian Shanklin for Kiffin the other day, and he said he was away from the team right now. He wasn't in practice again yesterday. He's the last at least 3 days that we've observed practice. He hasn't been out there, so I want to assume some kind of disciplinary situation or academic situation, and I wouldn't be surprised if eventually we find out he's not with the team, but he's not out there right now. So just to mention him.
That's the way I took it too. And it's not somebody that I had up at the forefront, but of greater concern is that Winnie Watkins has missed a couple of days, and that is somebody that I'm counting on playing. My understanding is that it's not a serious injury, but Kiffin hasn't commented on it yet, unless I missed it. Did he say anything about him that I missed after the first one? Okay.
No,
so a little concern there. Tre'Davious Green has had a non-contact jersey on the last couple of times that we've been out there. That's fine. The mandate is clear. Do not hit him, okay? They need him. They don't want to get hurt. But, okay, now this comes at a small price after we leave. They get in a team. Me and Jimmy were talking yesterday about how many snaps we expect him to take as an inline blocker. Fewer than what we expected him to be split out, but it's not like he's not going to ever have to block. So I'm just kind of curious what you think he's doing after we leave in a non-contact jersey in regards to blocking.
Yeah, probably it's got to be very light, right? I mean, this is somebody you need. I mean, he's obviously someone who's more in that wide receiver role at 6'7", 237. He's taller than any receiver they have, certainly. And he's a problem in that regard, but he's going to be called on to block it at times. Obviously, this is an area that's an important. Everybody talks about all the bells and whistles of a Kiffin Weiss offense, but being able to run the ball effectively is also important, and being able to block up front is important, and he's going to be called on to do that. So, yeah, it's a good chance he's falling behind that curve a little bit. That's a bit of a concern, but he's out there doing stuff. He's out there participating. He's out there. You're taking part in drills and catching passes. It's just that's a part of the game that that could be lacking a little bit at this point. He was in yellow again yesterday.
All right, last thing. Kiffin sat with Marty and McGee and did 30 minutes or so. As usual, when Kiffin speaks about anything Ole Miss, the one if there's anything juicy out of it, they're going to take it and run. And I don't mean
what
those
did he
two,
say?
I don't mean those two guys. I just mean everybody.
Yes.
He said, "Well, I wanted to go somewhere where the expectations are high." At Ole Miss, I'm paraphrasing here. At Ole Miss, you can go 7-5 and nobody's mad at you. He goes, "I'm miserable when I'm 7-5."
Oh man,
Scott, I think that if I were Lane Kiffin, and I'm usually not for any kind of media censorship. I hate it when they say, well, we'll do an interview, but you can't ask about this. I think from here on out, if I'm him, I'm just going to say, listen, the only time I'm going to talk about Ole Miss is the week we play them, and I'm going to talk about this year's team. I'm not talking about my time at Ole Miss anymore. I'm the coach at LSU. I'm done. Because he can't win. He can't win.
And we're tired of it. It's old, man.
So when he says something like that, like, hey, yeah, you can go 7-5 at Ole Miss and nobody's mad.
Forget Iowa State,
here we go again, man. So I don't know how you feel about that.
Well, it's obviously been a long odyssey, Kiffin at Ole Miss, and it's had all these twists and turns, and it's been hard for him to extricate himself completely from it. I mean, going back to letting some of the guys coach Ole Miss in the playoff, right? And you talked about that as well in this interview. Important to bear in mind that this interview took place at Media Days last month in Tampa. This was still
that
a
is
little
a good
fresher
point.
in his mind.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
And they didn't come to Baton Rouge and talk to him. They got every coach in a room. I saw the little room on the deck. I passed by it several times. They had a little studio room, and they got every coach to come in and talk. And he, I think he also mentioned either in that interview or another one, I think he did, that he passed the Ole Miss guys. They were leaving, and LSU was arriving, and he spoke to Trinidad Chambliss briefly, and so that's all still, it was all still fresher at the time. But I agree from his perspective. I mean, we want to be able to ask anybody anything, anytime, obviously, but from his perspective, I would say probably that's enough. I'm the LSU coach, and he did talk about LSU, but that was a little shot at Ole Miss. That one more little parting jab at Ole Miss.
That's a shot.
I would just say at this point, if it asked and answered, okay, he did the interview at the airport, he did the press conference here, he did the Vanity Fair thing, he did media days. All right, listen, I'll talk about Ole Miss the week we play them, like I talk about every other opponent. Other than that, let's move on, because he can't win. It doesn't matter if he says the place is a cathedral of college football and I was absolutely ripped away. It ripped my. They're not. You can't win. You cannot win this one. So I'd kind of give up the ghost on that a little bit. Anyway, Scott, we appreciate it. We'll talk to you next week. LSU have a full weekend pass by the time we talk to you again.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys. Always a pleasure to see you.
Charlie, here's the numbers on Kiffin. His first 2 years at Ole Miss, we're talking about tempo. His first 2 years, they ran 79 snaps a game.
Okay.
The last 2 years at Ole Miss, they ran 72.
Okay,
that's half the story. On defense, his first 2 years, they were on the field 77 snaps. The last 2 years, 71. So that's 13 snaps a game.
Yeah, you're turning around. You're basically taking a drive and a half.
So he's picking his spots where he's, but he is downshifted.
Yeah.
That's what we're seeing. So,
and to his team's benefit, for sure. We're brought to you by the Thibodeau Store, the Pierreport Store, open in LaRose and Lockport. Jimmy, tailgating. We a little over 3 weeks away.
Yes.
Can you get some tailgating stuff at the Thibodeau Store?
It is an on location cook or outdoor cook or festival cook or tailgating cook. It is. I mean, it gets your blood circulating, man. It gets you going. You get excited. I mean, there's so much to choose from in different size pots and burners, outdoor stoves and gadgets, cooking gadgets, and different things to make it so much easier on site. It is just unbelievable, man. Just so much. And if for some reason they don't have exactly what you're looking for, they will ship it to you. So I got about 90% of what I needed in one item that needed to be shipped. It was there a few days later at my house. But to put your hands on, to put with the ladles and to the pots and just so many things, just a the grill pellets. I mean, you name it, and all different sizes for all different price points to kind of. Well, I don't need something that big. No, I do need something. They've got it all to match your needs as well. So I'd highly suggest before you hunker down and do it, maybe even you have your rigs already and everything you need, to go there and get some of the accessories are really, really fun.
The Thibodaux store, 900 St. Patrick Highway in Thibodaux. Highway 70 in Pierre Part at the Pierre Part store, open in LaRose and Lockport. And all 4 locations can be accessed at one website, thethibodauxstore.com. Live at Roca, live at lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny from Roca Pizzeria on Government Street on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. From east, north to south, but we're heading west. It's Wes Reynolds from VSiN.
Hey, Wes, thanks for coming on again. And, I want to get to it before we get to the golf. And let's talk about, one of the teams in the Big Ten this year, because I'm hearing a little chatter. And here we go again. Lincoln Riley himself says he thinks his personnel on defense is the best he's had in, 5 seasons at USC. We heard some of this before. I understand they got a quality defensive coordinator, but I've seen coordinators look really good and really bad based on the personnel they had. So are you believing that this is the best defensive unit, or are they, and how improved are they if they are?
Yeah, color me a little bit skeptical, Jimmy. It's kind of like I'll believe it when I see it. The offense is always going to be good under Lincoln Riley, no matter where he is, even though they got to replace their 2 top receivers. But they're loaded in the backfield, and they've got a very good offensive line, so the offense shouldn't have any problems. But in terms of defense, you're now going to a 4-2-5, so you're going to a little bit different scheme because the Anton Lynn now goes to his alma mater at Penn State. And you're getting Gary Patterson. And I know Gary Patterson, long resume and a great coaching career, but he hasn't really been on an active staff other than like as a consultant, like drinking coffee at practice for about 5 years now. So he's basically coming out of retirement to coach this defense. And, I've seen USC's defense over the years, and they made some improvements under Lynn, but they still have trouble taking bad penalties and taking poor angles, not a great tackling team. So it's kind of like, you got to show me before I believe it.
Let's move on to the FedEx St. Jude Championship, and first of all, get us updated with the format, which I believe was changed for the first time last year, where Tommy Fleetwood took advantage of it and ran away with the victory. But Scotty Scheffler is the favorite at plus 450.
Yeah, he is. And by the way, top 70 here in Memphis, and then there is no cut for the event, but there is a cut after the event because the top 50 make the BMW next week in St. Louis, and that's significant because those guys all get into all the signature events next year. So there's a lot to play for in that regard. And then 50 to 30 when they go to Eastlake in Atlanta for the Tour Championship. But Scotty's the favorite, the rightful favorite, 3rd and 4th here the last 2 years. My gut tells me he wins this tournament, but I didn't single bullet him this week, so I chose to do the without Scotty and without Rory market, which is available at several books nationwide. Everybody pretty much has the without Scheffler, but it also includes Rory in some places, and there's not much difference in the price. So you spoke of Tommy Fleetwood, who I had last year, and got his heart broken here, but then followed it up where he won 2 weeks later in Atlanta. Tommy Fleetwood's 3rd here in 2 of the last 3 years, so I think he's going to play well again. And TPC Southland, the course they're at Memphis this week, is suited for his game. Be accurate off the tee, hit good irons, and putt well on Bermuda grass. And Tommy Fleetwood, I think, does really all 3 very well. So he certainly made the list. So I'm willing to get hurt by him again because he always kind of disappoints you. There he gets close, but never across the finish line. Maybe this is the week for him. And then also have Victor Hovland, which in the without market's about probably 25 or 28 to 1. He loves this course and has spoken very highly of it, even called it a genius course. And maybe that helps that you get a good result because he finished tied for 2nd here 2 years ago. But has been very good with his irons. His driving accuracy has really improved. And I think he's going to play well here this week. Some guys just really take to the course, and Victor Hovland, I think, is one of those guys. Similar price to a guy that doesn't really have maybe the best history here, but Siwoo Kim if you're looking at guys that are due for a win, and your guy Sam Burns is certainly another one of those as well, and I strongly considered him, but Steve Tim's got 5 top 5s this year. Hadn't been able to get that win as of yet, but did challenge for the first time at a major last month at the Open Championship. And we know that the ball striking, especially the iron play, is pretty darn good. But it's really been his putting, which is usually his weakness. It's been better. I think 5 of the last 8 starts he's gained with the putter. And he's on Bermuda, where all 4 of his PGA Tour wins have come on these Bermuda greens. So I think Steve plays very well this week, as does Russell Henley, who, kind of up and down year, even though he won at Colonial, was good in 2 of the majors and bad in 2 of the majors this year. But this is a course that should really fit him. He's the most accurate driver in the field. I think driving accuracy with all the water, by the way, on this course, I think 11 water holes, you're going to have to keep it in the fairway and avoid those fairway bumpers. He's about as accurate as you get on the PGA Tour, number 1 in fairways hit percentage. So Russell Henley also made the card, and then I closed it out with Ricky Fowler. I wanted to go a little bit of a mid-range shot. Ricky's another guy that's played probably the best golf he's played in like 4 years, even though he hasn't won this year, but he has several top 5s, several other top 10s. And I think it's focused, on just trying to get that win and really, ensure a spot in the Tour Championship, which would obviously get him into every major next year. Had to kind of scramble a little bit to get into him this year, but he was 6th here. He was in contention last year. I think Ricky Fowler gives it a good go this week.
Yeah, Ricky has been kind of hovering around the leaderboard, so he's in better form. 6th choice is Bermuda Burns on the odds for this week, and at 21.50 as far as our friends here at the Queen and Bally's, where we'll be tomorrow at Bally's at the DraftKings Sportsbook. But go a little bit further into Burns with his form and his highly regarded with his putting, especially on this Bermuda surface.
Yeah, Bermuda Burns, as they call him, should be very good here this week. And I did strongly consider him, and some of my cohorts on the Long Shots podcast did like Sam Burns this week. So he might be my buyer's remorse guy if he gets across the finish line. But he's certainly playing well. I had him at the U.S. Open when he finished runner-up. Then he finished 3rd at the Open Championship. So he's getting closer and closer to kind of getting that first major. I think next year maybe he finally gets it across somewhere. But Burns is playing well. Now, the one thing about him, and you guys know, he can get a little erratic off the tee. He has plenty of distance, but sometimes can spray it a little bit and leave himself some difficult second shots, some difficult approaches where he's having to scramble for pars instead of making birdies. But Burns is certainly very live this year, and there's a reason why I think he's very popular in the market.
Max, we'll get to your picks in the next segment, but anything for West to compare notes while he's here?
Well, I would ask, one of the things you mentioned the cut from 70 to 50 this week in the playoffs. Do you look at any of those back-end guys who need a good finish and maybe look to play them in placement markets where, it's unlikely that maybe they'll win because they're positioned, for between 50 and 70, but where they're in the mix on Sunday, they're playing for placements. That's what's on their mind rather than just going all out for the win. Is there anybody in mind for you in some of these placement top 10, top 20 markets?
Yeah, I think that's a good call, Max. And one that I think would be the example would be the guy that's ranked the last guy to get in based on the points at number 70, the young man Jackson Coyven, who, to make next week, he needs a minimum finish of a tie for 7th. So Jackson Coyven, I think, is certainly a guy to consider and doesn't have much course experience here, certainly playing here for the first time. But it seems like, I don't want to say he's course-proof, but he's been pretty good everywhere. And you trust a guy that has that pedigree, that was the number 1 amateur in the world and won in his 3rd professional start, clearly experienced in the South. I don't think that heat in Memphis is going to bother him very much, being used to playing it down there in the southeast part of the country. And I think Jackson Coyven certainly is worth a look. I know there's a lot of proven guys ahead of him, but I don't think Jackson Coyven is scared of anybody, and that he's going to be a regular winner on this tour for a long time. So that would be one I'm certainly looking at.
Not far away from the Auburn Plains to where he played college golf, to Memphis, Tennessee. So came over from San Jose to attend Auburn. But, just the numbers alone. So 70 or participate?
70 right now, down to 50 next
Well, he's
week.
17 on the odds. He's 17th in the odds. So the last guy to get in and where he is, so that tells you a little bit about where he's respected by the odds makers. As far as he's not respected as the last guy, not even close, being top 20 in the odds that we're seeing at DraftKings.
Yeah, without question, and deservedly so, I think. And he's only done this, by the way, to get in the FedEx Cup playoffs. There's basically like 4 stars on the PGA Tour is certainly impressive. Now, it helps that you win an event like you did at the 3M in the Twin Cities a few weeks ago. But he's been consistent and, obviously played very well at Auburn. They won the team championship again in the spring, War Eagle. I know you don't like me to say that on a Baton Rouge show, but but nevertheless, it certainly applies to him. And he's a talented kid, man, and these kids now are winning. We saw another one last week, Michael Brennan, 24 years old, win for the second time. Tor Bornson the week before. So there's a lot of young talent out there on the PGA Tour.
Now, Coy, he didn't go to high school. He moved to Chapel Hill, North Carolina, before he attended Auburn. So he was in the South, So we're coming to whether said he beat his dad George at the age of 7. Take me a lot longer than that to beat my dad in tennis. I can tell you that. That's at 7. I mean, my goodness.
Did you ever?
I did.
Okay.
He didn't shake my hand either, so he just
Come
went straight
on
back
now.
to. We were on vacation, and
He threw it his son in a father-son game.
Now we won the father-son tournament on the same trip, okay? But no, I did, and maybe I had him compromised by a margarita or two. I don't know. So,
And were you talking a little bit? Were you talking?
He was certainly a better tennis player than me. There's no doubt. There's no doubt. Wes, one more thing for the. When you look at returning talent, Wes, for the college football, your research, did you look at how much was returning from that particular team? Not transfers with starting experience, but from the same team in Oregon. Was that the most in the Big Ten? Was Ohio State second? And compare maybe to Notre Dame if you did some others as far as the continuity aspect. We know about the quarterback in a big chunk, but I'm just more interested in continuity from one year to the next, being at that same program.
Yeah, Jimmy, Oregon was up there with Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame might have been the top or the second most nationally. I know Bill Connolly at ESPN.com does a really good job of putting together the returning production. I think Oregon was about 66%. The Irish might have been like 70 or just over 70. But, yeah, that's why I think Oregon probably, in a lot of markets, rightful favorite in the Big Ten, as much as I have a rooted interest in another program, defending national champions. I just thought I'd throw that in there. But I think Oregon's going to be very good. And I think when you're looking at the production, too, just as a whole, I look at the lines before I look at anything else, before I look at skill positions, because I think some skill position guys, not that they're a dime a dozen, but they're more replaceable than I think good linemen on both sides of the ball. So Oregon arguably has the best defensive line in the country, even though Indiana getting Daly and Wyatt back eligible gives them a little bit of run for the money. But when you return those starters, when you return 3 or 4 starters at least on the offensive and defensive line, I think that's a feather in your cap. And combine that with a returning quarterback, Oregon certainly is a threat. They were my pick. I did not bet them to win the national championship, but they'd certainly be my pick, at least as of today.
Wes, we've had too much optimism, so I'm going to be the Debbie Downer here. I've been hearing everyone's high on their teams. Top 10 team that won't finish in the top 10. Who's your front runner for that position?
Ooh, man, that is a very good question. I am going to say,
Max hit you with that when we were up against the break, so
I would maybe say Miami, because I still doubt that coach a little bit in in-game situations.
Oh, I love their quarterback, though. I do like Mensa. So.
You weren't waiting on him to say Indiana, were you?
I just asking questions.
You really think I was going to say that? Come on now.
No, I didn't.
With all of Oregon's returning with talent, with their team last year, is a little bit guarded because of their recency bias. The last we saw them, they just got worked by Indiana.
Yeah, I think so. And I think Dan Lanning, he's a mission coach, and they're a team on a mission, because you're right. The last 2 years is where they really got exposed, against Ohio State in the Rose Bowl and then against Indiana in the Peach Bowl, and they got beat up front. So I think that they have a lot to prove there, being humiliated like they were. So Oregon is the team that I think, it's like they're kind of on the you-know-what tour, you-know-what-you tour. And that's what I think that they're going to be this year. They're going to be a tough out all season.
Follow Wes on Twitter at Wes Reynolds 1. Excellent as always. Wes, we'll talk to you next week.
You bet, guys. Thanks for having me.
Don't forget our Negretti Barola wine tasting in the Ray Room over here at Roca Pizzeria. Put it on your calendar. Wednesday, August 26th for just $50 a person. Wine tasting and chef-crafted bites. Our salumi boards, we're going to really do a number on it to just complement the wines that you'll be tasting. 6 to 8:30 p.m. Wednesday, August 26th. Reserve your spot now here at Roca for our Negretti Barola wine tasting in the Ray Room at Roca Pizzeria.
Live at Roca Live at Lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Live at Lunch with Ott and Hanny from Roca Pizzeria on Government Street on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Our Wednesday consensus golf picks are brought to you by Dana Brown at the law offices of O.C. Brown.
All right, Max.
Yeah, it's been a rough season, but hey, maybe like anybody, I'm limping in the playoffs, and I can just make a big playoff run, and we can have a profitable year.
Just get in the dance, man.
Get timed right, and I'm gonna try to time it one more time with Sam Burns this week. He's 22-1 at our friends Bally's, the DraftKings Sportsbook, the Queen. Excited about this. 22-1. He's gonna break through at some point, right, Jimmy? I mean, he hasn't played since the Open Championship, the heartbreak that was at Royal Portrush, where he finished in third, even though he was right there. I would basically consider him the runner-up. But second at the U.S. Open, we remember. Fourth at the Memorial back in June. He's been full of top 5s, top 10s, top 20s as of late, but hadn't played since that Open Championship. So it's been about a month. But nevertheless, his driver was in good shape, and his irons were about as good as they've ever been throughout his career. He's got 5 wins on tour. They don't call him Bermuda Burns for nothing. Interesting enough, Keith Stewart of Read the Line actually pointed out that this win at Memphis, if he were to get it, would be the northernmost win of his career. Memphis.
Really?
So he's gotten close in Britain. He got close, of course, in Philadelphia. But it would be the northernmost win in Memphis. But nevertheless, this is kind of his jam, and I think he's done well in the past. He finished runner-up back in 2021, 5th place in 2024. If he finds enough fairways, I think he can find himself once again in the mix. So Sam Burns, 22-1 in his 3-year winless drought. Also going to go with Victor Hovland, 37-1. He is not on a winless drought because he won earlier this year at the Travelers Championship. That was back in June. It's followed it up. He did miss the cut at the Open Championship. We haven't seen him since then either, but his iron play has been very, very good. He's always searching for things, but his driver is finding enough fairways. He's not hitting it as far as he used to, but he does seem to have found something there. And the one thing about the golf course, TPC Southwind, as much water as they have, the most water balls of any golf course on the PGA Tour. They renovated it a couple of years ago to add zoysia around the greens. Now, if you're chipping off zoysia, it's a lot easier to do, and that's the weakness of Victor Hovland. So I do think that favors him a little bit more to where he can get up and down a lot more often. It's not like this is a birdie fest where they're going to shoot 20 under. So I think he can save more pars this week when he misses these smaller greens. So Victor Hovland at 37-1 is my second, of the top choices. Then I'm going to go with 3 longer shots this week, maybe save some room for a live play this week. Alex Smalley is 85-1. He's played some pretty good golf. It seemed like he peaked maybe a little bit earlier in the season. He was very much in the mix of the PGA Championship, finished runner-up there, and then fell off. Missed 3 of 4 cuts. 53rd at the Open Championship. But last week, back on Bermuda, he showed a little bit of promise. 7th place finish at the Wyndham. He did throw his club, which I didn't really see that in him. Does not have a great course history here either, but I do think he's someone who could fit with the longer irons that he's going to have to hit in these smaller greens. Shane Lowry is also 85-1. Not a player I play a whole lot of, but he's won before at a venue where there's a lot of water danger off the tee. And so with all the ponds and lakes out here this week, I think Shane Lowry can put the ball in play. He's been finding fairways. His iron play has been pretty good. Hasn't had a top 20 finish since the Palm Beaches, the Cognizant Classic back in March. But that's another course that lays out similar to this. So maybe he can pop off this week. He's not somebody I trust on Sundays, but at 85-1, I think worth a shot here. And then Jacob Bridgman is 94-1. Won earlier this year, another guy who maybe peaked early in the season. He's currently 13th in the FedEx Cup standings, which would be a surprise to you, considering he hasn't had a top 20 finish since the Canadian Open. That's the only one he's had since way back in March. So he has not been in the best of form, but starting to find a little bit more. Always a great putter, especially on Bermuda. Finished 17th in his debut at this event last year. So Jacob Bridgman worth another shot at 94-1. So Burns, Hovland, Smalley, Lowry, and Bridgman. I'm all playing them with Scheffler, with Rory. It doesn't really matter. I'm just playing them in outright markets and hopefully saving a shot for in play. And then one placement finish, top 20 finish including ties for Jordan Smith, who's plus 250. Not Jordan Spieth. It's Jordan Smith. Top 20 in ties at plus 250. He finished 14th place last week at the Wyndham. Had a hole-in-one on Saturday. But ultimately what I see in him is he's playing well. He finds fairways. He's hitting his irons well, especially in these buckets that he's going to have to hit from this week. But he lacks the killer instinct. I watched him. I had an outright winner on him last week, and I thought he had a chance. He entered the third round very much in the mix, but just kind of evaporates when he's in the conversation for the lead. He's 64th in the FedEx Cup standings, so he needs a good finish to finish in the top 50 to advance on to next week. So Jordan Smith at plus 250, playing good enough golf, not to win, but to finish top 20, including ties, at plus 250.
Well, psychoanalysis alert, Max, Charlie.
What's up?
It's not just Spieth; it's a Jordan deal.
Yeah,
I don't know. Yeah, just
I thought he
got a fixation on Jordan.
I thought he had misspelled it on his
Jordan S's. So yes,
yeah.
So there we go. Give me a little bit further deep dive into this Koiven guy. Last guy to get in, but top 20 in odds, 17 to be exact. I mean, just any type of odds. Who do we see that? It's just. I understand its form, but is this guy really long-term that highly thought of?
Yeah, he's the real deal. He's the best amateur since Tiger Woods.
Oh, really?
In terms of, his amateur status. And the 70th in the FedEx Cup playoffs, it's very misleading because he's only played in 6 PGA Tour events this year, right? So he joined, he got rid of his amateur status after the U.S. Open, or it might actually been the John Deere. So he won on the 3M Open. That's what got most of his FedEx Cup points. He also finished 10th at the ISCO Championship, which is an alt-field event. So most of it comes from one win at the 3M Open. He finished 23rd at the U.S. Open earlier this year, so he gets some FedEx Cup points, I believe, for that. But he wasn't even on the PGA Tour at that point. He was an amateur coming off his senior year, I guess, at Auburn. I guess it was his senior year. But he was an incredible player at Auburn. A little bit of an interesting swing. I think there are some concerns about his long-term, whether he'll have a Will Zalatoris-like injury. He's a little bit lanky and kind of moves around a little bit. So that's like the one red flag, I guess, for Jackson Koiven. But other than that, he's got a better track record in terms of his amateur career than Scotty Scheffler, than Victor Hovland, Ludwig Oberg, Jordan Spieth, all these guys who you thought of who came up with a lot of promise very early age.
The format, again, this is all for this weekend. So, but they make a cut and 50 play next week?
Correct. Yeah, top 50 will make it next week.
That's not Atlanta.
They move it around. It's the BMW Championship. This year it'll be at Bellerive in St. Louis, so another hot and humid one there.
St. Louis, then Atlanta?
Then it'll be Atlanta for the top 30, the Tour Championship. And, again, no starting strokes, so it'll be wide open, top 30, as is, just like any other tournament. But also important, the top 50, the ones who advance this week into next week, into the BMW Championship, they will qualify for all of the signature events next year. It's the last year of the signature event model before they go to this sort of split tour model that they're going to in 2028. But if you want to make in the elevated events, all the elevated events next year, you have to finish top 50 after this week.
Spieth's in trouble.
He's currently outside looking in. That is one thing working in your favor, Jimmy. If he doesn't play in the elevated events, that might be a bit of a problem for him. So he is currently 54th in the FedEx Cup standing. So he's got some work to do.
So the consensus pick this week is Victor Hovland. So Victor Hovland and beat Scheffler in that playoff. Is that right for his last win?
Yeah, that was at the Travelers.
Yeah.
Held off Scheffler, who missed a short putt there in the playoff on the next day. It went on to Monday.
It's brought to you by Dana Brown at the law offices of O.C. Brown, your law firm for a lifetime, my law firm for a lifetime, Charlie's law firm for a lifetime. So dedicated to protecting your rights in a number of different areas: criminal defense, personal injury, estate planning, DWI, traffic tickets, drug crimes, truck accidents, motorcycle accidents, criminal expungement, boating DWIs, aggravated assaults, even dog bites, Charlie, hit and run, power of attorney, white-collar crime, domestic violence, we go on and on, wrongful death, you name it. Take advantage of that initial consultation. Call 343-1111 or go to the website at ocbrown.com. There's a big block on the main page. You just click on there if you want to set up the appointment for your initial consultation through the website as well. Or you can call us up at 343-1111. Second-generation law firm started by Dana's father, former district attorney O.C. Brown. Dana Brown at the law offices of O.C. Brown, your law firm for a lifetime, 343-1111 and ocbrown.com.
Live at Roca, live at lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny from Roca Pizzeria on Government Street on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Back here at Roca, live at lunch. I got an answer to your question, Max, or at least my opinion. You said a top 10 team that's not going to finish in the top 10 is not going to finish ranked at all.
Not finished ranked. We saw it happen quite a bit last year, right? Clemson, LSU,
Penn State. There were three of them. My pick would be Oklahoma. That's at least in the coaches poll is number 9.
Yeah, we got to go off of that for now.
They got Georgia and Texas back to back early in the season. They got Ole Miss and A&M back to back late in the season. Besides that, they got to go to Florida and Michigan. I mean, I can pick out.
Yeah.
I can get to 4 losses with Oklahoma without breaking a sweat.
That's all 6 of those are on the road?
No, not all 6. Texas is the river game. And
the neutral. Okay.
And Ole Miss and A&M are both at home, but they go to Michigan, they go to Georgia. They go to Florida. I don't know what to think about that game until we see a little bit of Summerall. But I can get to 4 losses and get them out of the top 25.
So you got Oklahoma 9, Ole Miss 10. That seems like a real candidate there.
I could have picked on them too.
We're high on A&M, so we're not going to pick that one, obviously.
Well,
but what about a top 5 team? Because we did see that a lot. Which Ohio State, Oregon, Georgia, Texas, Notre Dame. If any of those have a collapse of a season, who is it?
I'm just curious. We need to. I know they don't publicize it, but we sure heard enough from Oxford when they had their Grove Collective kind of getting it going.
Yeah.
No, we got a player budget. We got a quote unquote NIL budget. But I'm curious to see there's different. How do they respond? Does the boosters at Ole Miss they say, man, we gave more than ever before, and the guy still left us. Or, hey, man, we'd be damned if we're going to let this guy, him leaving the program, burn us, like kind of the Kelly, the Notre Dame reaction to Kelly leaving them for the first time. They weren't happy about that.
I think that part makes a lot more sense, Jimmy, because they ponied up for Chambliss. Remember the very beginning of this, there was a lot of talk about Chambliss coming here, and the same thing with Lacey and the kicker.
Chambliss and others, as I was going to clarify. Yes, and
they
didn't just
4 of them.
They didn't. Those guys just didn't stay. And I was way high on the number of Ole Miss players that would come because, I mean, you want to talk about Ole Miss's LSU's Iowa State, compared to Penn State. But not necessarily with the players because they retained a lot of key players, way more key players than Iowa State did.
Oh, 7 times as many.
Yeah, but I mean, if we originally thought that number was going to be higher.
Yeah, 10 to 12.
Oh, I thought it would be higher than that.
And they were bound to determine, we lost our coach. We're not losing our quarterback. We're not losing our lead running back.
So why wouldn't they be able to sustain it with the quarterback, with a lot of key players for a year? I mean, maybe a notch off, but a little bit of a dip instead of this major dip that people are expecting because when Kiffin leaves long term.
This year, I think they're fine. I mean, I don't necessarily think they're going to finish in the top 10.
So we're talking this year.
Top 10. But I could see them finishing in the top 25, not necessarily the top 10, but the top 25. So when that's why I asked.
I would.
Talking about all the way out of the top 25?
I like your Oklahoma better than Ole Miss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As far as top 5, the toughest schedule probably belongs to Texas.
Yeah.
Because of the Ohio State game, and they've got tricky games at Tennessee, at A&M, at Missouri.
Everything's in place.
Yeah.
Man.
So no, they got the team. It's just all of those teams look good on paper, all 5 of them. Okay? So I'm going to look at the toughest schedule, and that belongs to Texas.
Chip Brown is a veteran, beat guy in Austin, and was it Orange Bloods, I believe it's called. The on lights. He's been there for quite some time, and he did say, man, everything's in place, everything, but there is a little bit of that Texas feeling like they're kind of looking over their shoulder, waiting for that banana peel, or waiting for what's going to happen. What's going to happen. It's been a long time. When's their last national? Vince Young? So it's been a long time. But, and the Coleman thing is, okay, man, you should have seen this unbelievable one-handed catch he made in practice. Also saw him, and look, to his defense, they didn't have much throwing to him. But I did see a key game against Missouri and some others where he was wide open. They put the ball in the money, and he had a key drop that were game-altering job that we saw.
Here at Roca Pizzeria.
Not just pizza, man. Again, we talked about that August 26th, Wednesday, Negretti Barola wine tasting in the room for just $50 per person. And we do suggest, not recommended, but definitely do a good job and get a reservation if you're coming over here to Roca for dinner. They're always busy.
Tomorrow we're at Bally's. Stay tuned for Hunt on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.